The internet was on fire. For weeks, the narrative was everywhere, screaming from thumbnails and flooding social media feeds. Larry Bird, the legend himself, was about to walk through the doors of the Indiana Fever facility and take over as head coach. It was the ultimate savior story, a clash of titans, the kind of blockbuster move that seemed almost too good to be true. And that's because it was, while the entire world was chasing a ghost, a story fabricated by content creators and fueled by fan desire. The Indiana Fever front office was executing a real plan. A quiet, calculated, and absolutely ruthless move was made behind the curtain. They weren't hiring a legend from the past, they were correcting their course for the future. They let the internet have its fun with the rumors because it provided the perfect smokescreen for what they were actually doing, firing their head coach and revealing a secret master plan that has been in the works all along. Today, we're not talking about the fantasy. We're connecting the dots on the reality. If you're tired of the clickbait and ready for the real story, do us a favor and hit that like button. It shows us you're here for the truth, just like we are. Animated like icon with a satisfying click sound effect. Okay, so let's set the stage. The Larry Bird rumor was the perfect storm. You had a generational talent in Caitlin Clark driving unprecedented viewership and attention. You had a fan base desperate for a return to glory. And you had a legendary figure in Bird, an Indiana icon, who represents the pinnacle of basketball success. Social media content creators saw this cocktail of emotions and lit a match. Countless videos, many with millions of views, pushed the narrative of a secret meeting between Bird, Clark, and Sophie Cunningham. They used phrases like breaking news and just happened to create a false sense of reality. Now, for us narrative analysts, the signs were there. Reputable outlets like The Sporting News were already fact-checking these viral claims, finding that many quotes attributed to Bird about Clark were completely unverified. But the story was too compelling, and it served as the perfect distraction. Because while all of that noise was echoing through the web, the Fever front office made its move. In October 2024, the team officially announced they were parting ways with head coach Christie Sides. Now think about that for a second. This wasn't a team at the bottom of the league. Under Sides, Caitlin Clark had an incredible rookie season. And more importantly, the team made its first playoff appearance since 2016. On the surface, you'd expect a contract extension, not a termination. Firing the coach who just broke a near-decade-long playoff drought? That's not a simple decision. That's the first piece of evidence that a much deeper strategy was at play, a plan that required a very specific type of leader. And unfortunately for Christie Sides, she was no longer part of the equation. So, the question we have to ask ourselves is, why? Why fire the coach who, by all accounts, started to turn the ladder ship around? The answer has nothing to do with box scores and everything to do with the narrative. The moment Caitlin Clark was drafted, the job of the Indiana Fever's head coach changed overnight. It was no longer just about coaching a basketball team, it was about managing a global phenomenon. Let's look at the data. The Deep Search file confirms that Clark's rookie season drove a staggering 170% increase in viewership for the league. 18 of the 21 games she played in exceeded 1 million viewers. The pressure wasn't just on Clark to perform, it was on the entire organization to capitalize on this unprecedented moment. The front office wasn't just thinking about making the playoffs anymore. They were thinking about championships. They were thinking about building a dynasty. And to do that, they believed they needed a leader who had already navigated the immense pressure of the league's biggest stage. This is where the real master plan begins to unfold. and it's a brilliant piece of front office strategy. While the internet was chasing the ghost of Larry Bird, the Fever executives were closing in on their real target. A candidate whose name was never mentioned in the viral videos, but who was, in reality, the only person that ever made sense. The new head coach of the Indiana Fever, brought in to execute this master plan, is Stephanie White. Now, does that name ring a bell? It should. And if it doesn't, you're about to understand why this move is so much more calculated than anyone on the outside realized. Do you think a coach's past with a franchise matters more than a big name? Let me know in the comments below, because this detail is critical. A comment box appears on screen with the question: past history versus big name? The hiring of Stephanie White wasn't just filling a vacancy, it was a homecoming. And it's the key that unlocks the entire strategy. This isn't just about hiring a familiar face. We have to look deeper. The deep search file confirms that Stephanie White was the head coach for the Indiana Fever back in 2015 and 2016. But here is the single most important piece of information that reveals the entire front office strategy. In her very first season as head coach in 2015, Stephanie White led the Indiana Fever all the way to the WNBA Finals. Let's sink in. Christie Sides got the team to the playoffs, and she was let go. The new coach is someone whose last major achievement with the franchise was a finals appearance. This move sends a crystal-clear message from the top brass. Making the playoffs is no longer the goal. It's the bare minimum. The new standard is championship contention, and they've brought in a coach who has already proven she can get them there. This wasn't a panic move, it was an upgrade. It was a clear-eyed assessment of the new reality, and a strategic decision to bring in a leader they believe is equipped for a championship run. So now, we can connect all the dots and see the master plan in its entirety. It's a multi-stage plan that likely began the moment the Fever knew they were getting the #1 draft pick. Stage 1. Draft Caitlin Clark. This immediately changes the franchise's trajectory, bringing in massive revenue, media attention, and a level of pressure the team hasn't seen in years. Stage 2. Stabilize the ship. Keep Coach Sides for the transition. Her job was to integrate Clark into the system, manage the initial media circus, and get the team back to being competitive. She did exactly that by making the playoffs. She fulfilled her purpose in the plan. Stage 3. Escalate to championship-level leadership. Once the foundation was set and the team proved it could handle the spotlight, the front office executed the final phase. They replaced the transitional coach with a proven winner, a coach who isn't intimidated by the bright lights of the finals because she's already been there with their uniform on her back. They let the internet chase the fantasy of Larry Bird, while they quietly and efficiently secured the one person they believe can turn Caitlin Clark's Fever into a legitimate dynasty. So what does this all mean for Caitlin Clark and the future of the Indiana Fever? It means the training wheels are off. This move signals that the front office believes the initial adjustment period is over, and it's time to accelerate the timeline toward a championship. They've surrounded their generational talent with a coach who won't be rattled by the big moments. Stephanie White brings an immediate and undeniable credibility to the locker room. She can look her players in the eye and talk about what it takes to get to the WNBA Finals, because she has done it with that very same logo on her polo. For Clark, this means having a leader who is not just growing with her, but who can actively guide her through the challenges of a deep playoff run. This is how you build a dynasty. Ultimately, the story of the Indiana Fever's coaching change is a perfect case study for us narrative analysts. The internet and the rumor mill became obsessed with a fantasy, a sensational, headline-grabbing story about Larry Bird that was exciting but had no basis in reality. Meanwhile, the Fever front office operated in the real world, making a decisive, strategic, and far more intelligent move. they showed that building a championship caliber team isn't about chasing ghosts or winning the daily news cycle. It's about quiet competence, having a long-term vision, and executing a master plan while everyone else is looking the other way. So, what's your take on all this? We want to hear from you, the real analysts. Drop a comment below. Do you think Stephanie White is the coach who can lead Caitlin Clark and the Fever to a championship? Let us know your prediction. And if you appreciate analysis that cuts through the noise to deliver the real story, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Finally, if you know someone who got caught up in the Larry Bird rumors, do them a favor and share this video with them. They need to see the master plan they missed.